to New York City Chief Joe Yoder.
In 1976, how many people were alive here in 1976? Okay, about 3. I was on top of the world. I was a television salesman selling ad time for KAUZ TV in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I was the #1 sales rep, and I was killing it. And then one day I looked around the office and I thought, oh my gosh, they are all my father's age. They are never going to make me boss. And I thought, damn, I got to change this picture. I can't stand this. I'm not going to wake up 30 years from now and be a salesman at KAUZ TV. I got higher aspirations here. I'd always wanted to work in New York City. If you're in advertising or marketing, that is the epitome. That is the creme de la creme. That's where the top dogs work. And I thought, what? I will just go to New York. I'm single. I got no commitments. I got a few little money in the bank. I'll go. And so I did. I got 2 weeks later, I fly to New York City. And I knock on doors all week long. But you know what I hear? Mr. Yoder, you haven't got an MBA. I never heard of Oklahoma State University, and I don't even know why anybody would go there to start with. You're not in the advertising business. You sell TV time. And son, I think New York is going to eat this small town southern Oklahoma boy alive. So we are going to pass. And there's the door. I heard this over and over and over and over again until I walked into BBDO Advertising, one of the largest in the world. And I reminded them of a guy named Jim Goodnight, who was from Texas. And they said, you know what, we think you have fire in the belly just like Jim. We're going to give you a shot. And so I flew back home, gave my notice at KAUZ TV, called my folks, went to see them up in Oklahoma, told them what I was going to do. My mother made me promise not to marry a Yankee, and it's another speech right there. Packed my bags and I went to New York City. And I'm tugging these huge bags. I went to live out of these 2 huge suitcases until my furniture and stuff arrived. I go out to the taxi stand and I get in line with this nice, sweet little couple. Taxi guy calls up a taxi, and this guy gets out of his taxi and he blocks the sun. This guy is so big. He's about 6'4", about 260. He runs over to this nice couple, picks up their suitcase and said, where are you going? And they said, we're going to Jackson Heights, which is just across the road from LaGuardia. He goes, wait a minute. I've been waiting 2 hours for this fare. That's a $10 fare. I ain't taking them. And he starts to go back to his cab. Well, when he came up and got out of his cab, the taxi manager whistled up my cab. And my cab came up, and a little old lady, about 5'2", 110 pounds, soaking wet, jumps out of the cab and hits up to me. But then she sees what's going on, and she goes, holy cow, I'm not taking these people to Jackson Heights. And she goes at this guy like Patton going through the Battle of the Bulge, and for about 5 minutes she undresses him from top to bottom. She goes after his mama, his daddy, his uncles, aunts, anybody she could find, and reminds him it's also illegal to refuse a fare in New York. And after about 5 minutes of this undressing, he relents, picks up their bag and goes. Then I turn to myself and I go, holy guacamole, I'm getting in a cab with this wild woman. And she says, get in. Grabbed my 2 bags like they were a couple of Gucci bags, throws them in the back of the car, and slams the door, and she's not finished with him. She wants to curse him some more. And so he's blocking her, and she's trying to get around. He's blocking her, she's trying to get around. And I'm on the back of this checker cab, hanging onto the straps for dear life. Back here and back here, and she's trying to get beside him and call him Oh my God, and every once in a while she does, and she lets him have it. And I finally go, oh my God, they are right. This city is going to eat me alive. And I'm thinking, okay, I got two choices. One, I can tell her, turn around and take me back to the airport, I'm going home. Or I'm going to do something else. And I finally just say, listen, stop this. I have got to get into the city. She did. And I look around the cab. I did something very smart for a guy from Oklahoma. I looked around the cab and realized it's all decorated with American Indian paraphernalia. Dream catchers, beads, blankets, all kinds of stuff. And I look at her and I say, are you part Indian? And she said, yeah, I'm Narragansett. And I said, that's cool. I'm part Cherokee. Oh my goodness. We're now blood brother and sister. We're family. The environment totally changed. And all of a sudden, I'm part of her family. And as we're driving into the city, she's pointing out this neighborhood you don't want to live in. You want to live in that one. You don't want to live over there. I'll tell you where to get to the American Indian Consulate. And I thought, man, this is great. And so what happened? I get to BBDO. I work there. I get promoted within 6 months. I worked there for 2.5 years before I left to go to Gray Advertising, where I worked for another 1.5 years. And I broke my mother's heart. I married a Yankee. But what I did was prove those guys wrong that they said New York would eat a small town boy alive. And you can do the same thing if you can find your blood brother or blood sister somewhere on the streets of New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
What Joe didn't tell you is that there were 10 other people who went from Oklahoma to New York City. He's the only one that made it out. A reminder, please fill out that feedback card, give it to Joe. And then I'd like